Thousands of children and families in Marion County struggle with issues like poverty, substance abuse, or mental and emotional illness. Many local services exist to help families in crisis, but families often don't know about these services or can't get to them. Unmet needs can result in child abuse, neglect, or juvenile delinquency. The Early Intervention Planning Council, through the Marion County Commission on Youth's Early Intervention and Prevention Initiative, has created a plan to give families earlier access to services in the hopes of reducing the number of children who get abused or neglected or turn to delinquent acts. We hope you enjoy our monthly program, Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities, and learn more about the local services here to help you.
Hi, my name is Shana Martin, and welcome to another episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities. Today's show is focused on safe sleep habits, particularly for infants and newborns, because we know when it comes to prevention, we lose probably way too many children annually dying because of unsafe sleep habits. So we have Lynette Heiser, who's here today from the IU Child Protection Team, and she's going to talk to us a lot about how to put kids to sleep in a healthy way and healthy sleeping habits. And we'll talk a little bit more kind of generally about the IU Child Protection Team and what you do there and that kind of stuff. So Thank you for being here today, Lynette.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about your role on the Child Protection Team and kind of what your focus is?
Okay, well, I am the program coordinator for the Marion County Safe Sleep Project. That's under the umbrella of the IU Child Protection Team. And every Friday, I love to educate families on safe sleep. Currently, we have a class every Friday that's held at the Children's Bureau. And what I do is I show families a video about safe sleep, how to protect your child against sudden infant death syndrome, better known as SIDS, and sudden unexplained infant death. And we also educate families on how to protect your baby from sleep accidents and suffocation. We provide this wonderful pack and play crib when the families come in for training. The pack and play comes with a bassinet attachment. It has a mattress pad. We also provide what's called a wearable blanket or a sleep sack and a pacifier. And we provide the sleep sack opposed to blankets, because a lot of babies die from from blankets. When there's a blanket that's covering their face, there's not enough oxygen in that rebreathed air, and so babies can suffocate with blankets. So we promote nothing but baby in the crib. We don't want to put any blankets, any pillows, nothing soft or fluffy in the crib.
No stuffed animals or bumpers?
No stuffed animals or bumper pads. There's nothing else that you need to put in this crib. When you're sleeping a baby, you want to sleep a baby flat and firm, not soft and fluffy. So even if you don't have a pack and play, if you have a crib at home, don't put any other bumper pads in the crib, because babies do suffocate. It's a suffocation hazard when babies get too close to the padding.
Okay. And also putting babies to sleep on their backs or their stomachs?
I know. Everybody always asks that question, because some people say, well, when I was raising my child, we put them on their on their stomachs, and then we put them on their sides. But since babies have been sleeping on their backs, the SIDS rates, sudden infant death syndrome, those rates have been cut in half. About 4,500 babies die yearly from unsafe sleep practices.
Wow. Is that in Marion County or Indiana? Or
in the United States.
In the United States, okay.
And about 80 to 90% of those are attributable to unsafe sleep practices.
Okay.
When a baby is sleeping on their backs, their airways are open. We also provide a pacifier. Some people think, I don't want to give my baby a pacifier, but pacifier use could help prevent the risk of SIDS. Sucking, that pacifier or the sucking reflex, it helps keeps their tongues positioned forward, and it keeps their airways open.
And doesn't it also, and correct me if I'm wrong, keep them from falling into such a deep
sleep,
which
correct.
Also increases the risk for sudden infant death syndrome?
You're on it, correct.
I have a 3-year-old, so it hasn't been too long since I've had to remind myself of all of this.
Good.
Okay. So so having a pacifier helps keeping them from going into a deep sleep.
Deep sleep, yes. What else do I want to share with you? I'm not sure how. I know babies, shouldn't sleep all through the night. I know when you have a newborn, they do sleep a lot, but you want to make sure your baby's waking up often, a few hours to feed them. If you plan on breastfeeding, that is a wonderful, breastfeeding is wonderful. You want to make sure you establish your breastfeeding practices before you offer a pacifier to your baby.
New parents, tired parents, it's just easier to have the baby in the bed. You feed them, you just leave them there. You don't have to get up and do anything. So talk about that.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. With the pack and play that we offer, I mean, it's so easy. It's portable. You can put this right next to your bed. If you plan on, like I said, breastfeeding, you can breastfeed the baby. After breastfeeding, you can burp the baby, put the baby in a safe place. A lot of families, a lot of moms, they fall asleep with their babies, and that's where we see a lot of the accidents. Well, you don't plan on falling asleep with your baby, but you're exhausted, and, instead of putting your baby in a safe place, you fall asleep, with the baby. And I've seen mothers roll over their babies. I've seen pictures from our child fatality review meetings that we go to on a monthly basis, where babies are dying because families are not putting their babies in safe places to sleep. Even putting a baby with a sibling, the siblings can roll over, their little brother or sister, and that's not safe as well. When you could possibly, have two parents, they want to lay down and they want to watch a movie and, put popcorn, have the popcorn and they put the baby between them. You don't want to do that. Okay. I've seen where families both of them have fallen asleep and, one parent roll over the baby and the baby suffocates. Yeah. And you don't want to put a baby in an adult bed either, because babies can fall between the mattress pad or, the mattress and the wall, and they can get stuck and they can die from suffocation.
Okay, so a lot of what you're talking about is just sort of a reframing of how we focus on putting our babies and infants to sleep, because it sounds like a lot of this can be prevented. We just have to be aware of this, know this information, and in some cases not listen to our mothers and our grandmothers who say those things like, well, this is what we did for years and you guys all turned out okay. But what I've come to learn is that even though we may have survived, there's a lot of children that didn't survive from sleeping on their stomachs and sleeping in the bed with parents. So now, as I hear you talking that the rates of sudden infant death syndrome, things are improving, and they're improving because of education and because families are putting their babies to sleep more on their back. They're not sleeping in their beds as much. The sleep sack, the first time I showed my mother the sleep sack, she thought, what is this? What is this? The question is the baby warm enough through the night? And I also have kind of been told by my pediatrician that you don't want them hot.
Right. An overheated baby is more likely to go into a deep sleep, which is, it's not good for those babies. So you want to dress the baby you want to dress the baby in a way that's comfortable to a lightly clothed adult. I mean, the temperature in the room should be comfortable to a lightly clothed adult. I'm sorry. You don't want to keep, all the blankets and pillows and, hats, and the baby's sweating in the room. So you want to keep the temperature. That's what I'm trying to say. Keep the temperature in the baby's room that feels comfortable to a lightly clothed adult.
Okay. What other statistics, or facts can you share that are important to know?
Well, I think when you're putting a baby to sleep, a baby should have a set routine. Okay. Put the baby on a schedule. I like the 4 B's: bath, bottle, book, and bed. Okay. Okay. So you just keep the baby set on a schedule. Feed the baby. Read to the baby, offer the baby a pacifier at night. Okay. And I think you'll be fine if you establish those, a schedule for the baby.
So the 4 B's: bath, bottle, book, and bed. I like that. I like that, and I know that it is. Again, it always seems like such a daunting task at the beginning, but really doing that and getting into that routine from the very beginning helps children and it helps moms.
Yes.
Because then your child is getting used to that routine and it becomes easier and easier and easier for them to fall asleep. And then they learn how to kind of regulate and put themselves to sleep.
Yes.
But when you get out of those, or you don't have a routine or a schedule, then kids aren't too sure when they should be going to bed or where they're going to be sleeping or what's coming next.
Yes.
And it kind of throws them off. So.
And please, don't start sleeping with your baby. I mean, before I started teaching safe sleep, I didn't know anything about safe sleep and, having a safe place for your baby. My daughter, she slept in my bed. I put her in my bed at one point because she was sick, and I wanted to hear her and make sure she was okay. And it took me about 12 years to get her out of my bed. So that's something you don't want to establish. Make sure you have those firm guidelines where you have a safe place to sleep. It's okay to room share, but don't bed share.
Okay, so room share is okay.
Room share, yes.
And these pack and plays are wonderful. What about a bassinet?
This has a bassinet
Okay.
attachment, and if you get a bassinet, just make sure it doesn't have a lot of, blankets and soft, fluffy items in the bassinet.
Okay.
I think a bassinet is fine, but babies grow out of those
fairly quickly.
Yes.
And you see the bassinets rocking back and
Yes.
forth with these big old kids in them. So yes, I experienced that. But pack and plays are wonderful.
They're wonderful.
Because you can have them in your bedroom. You can have them in the living room. I mean, my daughter loved to sleep in hers everywhere. She napped in it. She slept in it. And it was just wonderful. And it was something I could take with me, as I moved in different areas of the house to make sure that I could always, keep an eye on her.
And not only that, I mean, if you're traveling,
yes.
If mom and dad going on vacation and leaving baby at home, you can take this to whoever's babysitting or caregiver.
Yes.
And it's portable. I mean, your baby can always have a safe place to sleep.
Yes. And I made sure caregivers, my grandparents actually had one of their own.
Good.
So there was one always there.
Good.
So no reason for them ever to say no. Kids couldn't spend the night. What about, at what age does SIDS deaths reduce or become not as prevalent anymore? And is that the same age that it's kind of safe to move children from room sharing into their own room?
I believe after 6 months, the risk of SIDS decreases. But we do know that babies, under the age of 1 do die suddenly and unexpectedly.
Okay.
And these are called sudden unexpected infant deaths.
Okay.
So I guess I'm not really quite sure when you can, move the baby out of your room. I guess whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean, if that's 6 months, 6 to 9 months, but it's up to you, whatever you feel. But 6 months, I would think you could put the baby in their own room. In their own room.
Okay. And so you do this program every Friday, and is there a criteria? How do folks get enrolled? Where do they go?
The criteria, the eligibility guidelines are that 1, you don't have a crib for your infant. 2, you not able to afford a crib.
Okay.
If you're receiving WIC or Medicaid or living at or below the poverty level, you qualify for the crib program. And I get referrals from different agencies around the state, around the city of Indianapolis. It can come from Healthy Families or Eskenazi Health. It can come from Goodwill Indy, nurse practitioners, I believe that's what it's called.
Nurse family practitioners.
Thank you, nurse family practitioners. So a lot of agencies that are, a lot of families that are getting help from other agencies will send the referral to me, and then I contact the families for an appointment.
Okay. And so they have to come in and actually do like a training. So they can't just come in and walk out with
we're not going to just say, here's your crib, go, here's your pack and play, have at it. We really want to educate families on the importance of safe sleep and how to keep their babies safe and protect them from sudden infant death syndrome and accidents.
Okay. And how long is the program?
The program lasts about an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's very easy. We have free parking. It's, like I said, it's held right at the Children's Bureau. It's held right in the gym every Friday at 1 o'clock. And we educate our families, and they have all these goodies that they can take home with on that day.
Okay. And is there any follow-up that happens?
Not at this point. We used to be able to follow up with families, but we don't have the resources at this point
Okay.
to follow up right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
For families, I know you're a part of, are affiliated with Riley, I believe. And Riley has their safety store. Are there products that are in the Riley safety
Yes.
store that parents that may not be eligible for the Friday program can
Yes.
still get some safe sleeping products?
Yes, I know that Riley Safety Store sells the wearable blankets, and they're about $10.18 with tax.
Okay.
I went and checked, and I said, I'm gonna, I need to find out how much these are going to be, so they can buy those at the Riley Safety Store. They have swaddlers, for the newborns. I'm not quite sure how much those are, but they run between $10 and $15.
I think they're like $13.
Yeah.
I've done some shopping in there.
Oh, good. Unfortunately, they don't have pack and plays that I know of, but
I don't think so.
yeah. But
they
why
do
buy
have-
one when you can
Well,
get
true,
one?
true. And those are great. I know lots of people give when you have baby showers. Pack and plays are
Right.
usually something that folks like to give. And the Riley Safety Store also has pacifiers.
Yes, they
so
do.
I know they do that along with lots of other safety items for
Yes,
baby.
they
But I
do.
know safe sleeping is something that we want to promote because.
Yes.
This show and the focus of the Early Intervention Prevention Initiative is all about how do we keep kids safe, how do we
Right.
prevent child abuse, neglect, delinquency, but in doing that, want to make sure that kids are healthy and growing up in safe homes. So,
Yes.
and we know it starts even before birth,
Definitely.
but certainly after birth, how you put your child to sleep really does play a role in whether they survive and are
Yes.
healthy or not.
And if you are one of those parents that have experienced the loss of a child, there are resources out there where you can get help. There's firstcandle.org.
Okay.
They help families, deal with the loss of an infant. They have counselors available 24/7 that you can talk to. Cribs for Kids program is out there as well. And yeah, I believe that's about it that I
Okay.
can think of. Those resources are out there to help families deal with the loss of a child.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about what the Child Protection Team does, generally speaking.
Well, the IU Child Protection Team deals with protecting families against child abuse.
Okay.
They're involved with Department of Child Services. Anytime Department of Child Services has a case, they consult our doctors on child abuse issues. We also have a Marion County Child Fatality Review Team that reviews the deaths of those children under the age of 18.
Okay.
And that's pretty much what they do there.
Okay. Okay. So is that a resource, typically not a resource that families would utilize unless they are concerned that a family member maybe or a child may be experiencing abuse or neglect?
Yes.
Okay. And if that's the case, as we always promote on this show, that they should still be calling DCS to make
Correct.
a report as well. But
Correct.
if for some reason they are not doing that, then IU physicians are trained in the Child Protection Team to recognize
Yes.
what is different about abuse and neglect
Yes.
versus some other medical issues or
Yes.
accidents and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well said.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I tried. Well, is there any other information you'd like to share? Other resources that families can look into if they just want to know more about how to keep their kids healthy, particularly around sleeping, around routines, good sleep habits?
Yeah, I believe there's one. The American Academy of Pediatrics has a wealth of information out there about safe sleep, how to keep your baby safe and protect them against sudden infant death syndrome and sudden unexpected infant death. There's also resources out there to, I think it's called, I can't remember the website.
Okay.
Sleep, I can't remember what it's called. But
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It may be something that we'll find out and be able to display as one of the resources.
But yeah, I'm just so honored to be able to do this program and provide this service for families. It's one of my favorite parts of my job is to, help families who can't afford a crib and all these items, have a safe place for their babies. So it's really close to my heart. So,
okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Again, I know it's a really important topic and one that a lot of folks may not think about. And I also want to, point out to our viewers and remind them that a pediatrician is a wonderful resource as well, and that all newborns need to be connected to a pediatrician.
Yes.
And that the pediatrician is a resource to ask lots of questions. And I remember asking lots of questions and having my pediatrician very clearly explain to me why babies should not sleep on their stomach, and was something I wasn't aware. You kind of hear that they should sleep on their backs, but I really didn't understand and wasn't clear why and how sleeping on a stomach, and basically what he said to me was, well, you breathe out carbon dioxide,
right?
And if you're laying on your face, you're basically breathing back in the same air you just breathed out.
Right.
And we know that carbon monoxide, is what can kill people, and that's what kills babies. And so once he said that, I thought that makes sense, and it really. I made it very clear to anybody who was caretaking, for my children, that they are not to sleep on their stomachs, because no amount of watching can prevent that, because you don't know that they're not breathing until they're not breathing.
Until it's too late.
And then it's too late. So yes, pediatrician is a wonderful resource, and parents should be accessing those and talking to them.
Yes, and on Fridays I do have a pediatrician who's able to come to my class.
Great.
And answer questions that moms may have.
Okay.
So that's also, it's excellent when
Good
she's
deal.
there.
Yay.
Takes a little pressure off me.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thank you again, Lynette, for being here. Really appreciate you sharing all of this great information. I have enjoyed the conversation, and it always helps me to remember what I need to be educating my family members and friends about as they're bringing little ones into this world. So thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And thank you for tuning into another episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
The Marion County Commission on Youth, MCOY, is celebrating 20 years of positive youth development in central Indiana. MCOY was originally formed as an initiative of Mayor Bill Hudnut's administration to improve the status of youth in Marion County.
The notion of creating some countywide effort was to increase the opportunity available to young people, so all kids would be on equal footing.
A city cannot be a success in the future if it doesn't take care of its children today. Nobody makes themselves. There's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. We all are indebted to other people for so many things. So that's why it takes a village to raise a child.
There was still a sense that this was an area in which the private sector could be a better leader of the effort than could the city. And so the mayor asked some of us to get involved with Debbie Nelson and partner in taking the Marion County Commission on Youth away from the city. The city would continue to fund it to a significant degree for some period of time, but essentially to privatize it and have a private autonomous board who could move it with clarity into a direction that would continue and advance the promotion of youth activities and identify areas for which there were voids in our community.
The Community Service Council, again, that was the kind of coordinating agency for youth services and human services at the time, part of the United Way, engaged all of them, engaged a lot of stakeholders, people from neighborhoods, people from youth serving agencies, youth themselves, in a process of determining what were the needs of the community. And we decided the key need was for one entity to be the focal point for all of these groups so that you could come up with a more complete and comprehensive plan.
MCOY serves as the connector for youth in the community. So it brings together those that serve youth and best practices and brings it into our community in a way that's understandable for folks and helps them build capacity. So it's unique in that it is not a direct service provider, but rather a support system for those that provide systems of care for youth.
MCOY really gave us more of a macro Indianapolis look, which I think is really important to help us, share ideas and problems and work out things together.
MCOY really facilitated the conversations among or between these organizations serving young people, and that was very helpful.
MCOY really offers that opportunity to to build those relationships in a very neutral way and bring together people that wouldn't normally have the opportunity or the time.
One thing that I think very early on in our history where we were successful, and this was back in the late 1990s, we'd only been around for 5 or so years, and we successfully lobbied with our local bus company to establish a youth bus pass. And that is something that's still there. It still goes. You can still get a discount pass as a young person to ride public transportation. And so we helped the community recognize how important access to transportation was to young people.
To influence public policy, I think, is really important. And the way that they go about doing that is kind of a systematic method of sending issues out into the community and saying, here's the issues that we're concerned with, and here's what we think is important about these things. And they're very nonpartisan, too. So they don't care whether it's a Democrat or Republican, as long as they're doing the right thing, which I think is so refreshing in politics today.
Because of YAC, I kind of been more open to all these community events, and it's my way to get involved with the community, because really I feel like it's making me a better person. I get more involved with people, older people, younger people, and then help change the world.
I don't think anybody else in Marion County does what McCoy does, and I think those families and those kids would not have the benefit that McCoy brings to them without McCoy.
McCoy has become that central entity that looks at everything about young people in Indianapolis. That's really, I wouldn't say it's completely unique in the country, but it's rare. And the fact that McCoy has made it a sustainable model speaks volumes to McCoy, to Lilly, United Way, the city, all of those who really invest and continue their efforts to keep it alive and keep it valuable.
So one of the unique things about McCoy is that McCoy doesn't focus on one subset of youth or one particular population or one problem that youth encounter. McCoy takes youth in a holistic approach and says, what is it going to take to make our youth, our children, successful across all spectrums? So it looks at education, it looks at health and wellness, it looks at juvenile justice, it looks at a broad spectrum of what does it take to make youth healthy and safe and successful and thrive in our community. And so that's what makes McCoy unique, because we're not really looking narrowly at one problem or one subset of youth. It's all youth, and that's what we believe everyone should have.
And I salute McCoy, and I'm glad that we got it started back when I was mayor, and I wish it all the best in the next 20 years.
I hope that McCoy gets more recognition, because I don't think enough people know about McCoy, and if they did, they would join and be a part of helping their community.
I hope we keep growing. I hope we keep continuing to engage and empower young people. I think that in the next 20 years, I'd really like to see that even more so. I'd like to see more young people involved and more young people engaged, and at our table and at the tables of other youth-serving organizations and at the tables of other where community decisions are made, especially decisions that impact them the most. It's been a great ride for 20 years, and I think it's a testament to this community that we're still here, and it's also a testament to the folks who've been involved with McCoy, our staff members, our board members, all our various community partners, because that's how we do business. We do business in partnership. It's not just any one person, but it's all of us working together. And I think for 20 years, we've kept our eyes focused on, we're going to make this a better community for young people. And we've made steps. We've got a lot more to take, but I feel really good as far as that we've come this far, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to go farther in the next 20.
McCoy has big plans for the future. There is a lot of work to do in the next 20 years, but with your support we will accomplish much, and the youth of Central Indiana will be healthier, happier, and safer.